Glass, might zoom in. So yeah, that's not very accessible. So I'll make it bigger. So I got bigger text. Everyone can see that, right? So this is obviously a contrast problem. So these are two of the problems that are encountered with web accessibility. There's a plethora of them, and we'll go into some of them in more detail. But here's the actual, okay, so there's this, so, you know, obviously you want people, you build these slides, you build this content for a reason. We want people to be able to see it. So, quote, "The power of the web is its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect." So that's from Tim Berners-Lee, who's the W3C director, and some say the inventor of the internet, although Al Gore challenges on that. But interesting fact, the internet is 20 years old this year, according to many. Okay, so why? Start with the why. Accessible websites reach a bigger audience. Some studies show up to 14% of the total population live with a disability, and universities truly speak to this diverse group. An accessible website is search engine optimization friendly. So Google searches very much like an assistive technology would search. Google's blind. Google is just crawling your text, and it will reward you with higher page rank. Accessible websites are usable. They're better usability by default. An example of that is when you get into sort of cognitive stuff, they say to use simple and easy language. So that's better for people with cognitive issues, or English isn't their first language, or French, depending on your first language. But it's better for everyone, right? Increased reach of different technologies. So accessibility today doesn't just mean a screen reader. It's your every browser, tablets, phones. The more accessible, and again, the bigger the reach. So it really makes sense. Okay, why should Ontario universities do it? Here's the big threatening thing. So Ontario must comply to the new Access for Ontarians with Disability Act, which I'm going to call AODA from here on forward. And if you're not compliant, the word on the street is fines up to $100,000 a day, plus $50,000 for each director is liable. So it's pretty important. But most importantly, Grumpy Cat says it's the right thing to do. Okay? You told me that personally. Okay, so I know everyone here isn't in Ontario schools, but I'm just going to cover AODA real fast for those that are. So it's provincial legislation that really impacts all businesses in Ontario, that's private, public, that deal with people. It's a customer service standard and it's accessibility standard, which really means you have to make things, remove barriers and prevent barriers for all your clients. It's a broad legislation, so we're going to talk about web accessibility today, but it covers everything from physical heights of telephones to documents online. And Section 14, which we'll talk a lot about today, is web accessibility. It refers to standards, and the web standards it refers to are the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known as WCAG 2.0. So those are monitored by the W3C, so they're sort of that governing body that controls standards on the internet. So what we're talking about here a lot today isn't when you go to a HTML validator and you put in your doc type. It's actually a different set of compliance standards. It's good to do that as well. That's a step for getting your websites compliant as well. But here today we'll be talking about going against this WCAG 2.0. And it's a 3-tiered level system. So it operates on 3 levels of criteria. There's a level A, which is the minimum, level AA, enhanced, and level AAA, additional. They all build off each other, so you wouldn't ever go from level A to AAA without meeting AA. And they get significantly higher, harder to achieve. So compliance deadline around AODA. So AODA is in effect. It's been in effect since 2012. As of January 2014, all your new websites and all your new content on those websites have to meet single A WCAG 2.0. And again, that's an Ontario thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is broader than that, and maybe somebody will fill me in on that. And sorry, 2021, you have to meet AA. It sounds like a long way away, but AA means every web page on your domain. So if you're like us, that's a lot of work. Web accessibility addresses the following issues. So visual, mobile, mobility, auditory, cognitive, neurological. So the more we learn about this, it's a vast gamut of implications. Oh, that's embarrassing. actually it's an image. And no one knows whether it's an image of, because it's sort of actually more of a metaphor of, let's say you're in your screen reader and you come to an image without an alt tag. This is kind of what it symbolizes. But in this case, if you had a screen reader, you check the source, you'd actually get a better idea of what the image was. So that's sort of an example of what, this is a sort of a reverse example of what you always want to do. And this is one of the bigger, more common issues. I'll click.
You can click.
So Mike's going to talk about some other common issues.
Hi, I'm Mike. I work with Dan at Carleton University. I'm the senior web developer there. So one thing we can talk about is what are the most common accessibility errors. And this list right here sort of makes up, I don't know if everyone can hear me, is that better? This list here makes up 76% of all errors, according to a study done recently. The first one is what Dan was just talking about, which is no alternative text on images. And the polar bear thing is a good example. It's like trying to drive down a highway without being able to see signs. Second is inappropriate use of JavaScript. And this is a big one because you can actually use JavaScript to enhance accessibility, which a lot of people don't know. But a good example would be, say you have a link and you click that link and it expands content somewhere. That's really cool and it looks really fancy, but for someone with a screen reader, that now changes the DOM, or the document object model in which that text is contained. So again, the screen reader has to go through again, and it can be a nightmare to try to figure out, oh, I clicked on a link, now I have to, what on this page has changed? And that can just be terrible. And one thing you can do is install something like JAWS on your computer and try to go on your website and try to navigate your website as if you were someone with a disability. And it's the first time I did it, I was blown away at how difficult it is to actually navigate through something, especially when you're clicking on things that are constantly changing other elements on the page. All of a sudden, the navigation menu is different. So that's just terrible. 3 and 4 are sort of the same. And CSS is now used for layout more than tables is, but tables are it's still best case to use table markup for tabular data, so big data structures. And if you don't have the headers done right, if you don't have the labeling done right, it is, again, a nightmare. And I invite you to just try getting something like JAWS and going to a page and trying to experience what someone navigating a huge data table that's not coded properly, that's not structured properly, is like. And 5, use of features with a lack of accessible alternatives. So something like a caption on a page that doesn't have an audio link that will read out the letters. Another example could be, a video, an instructional video on your website that doesn't have captions or doesn't have a text alternative where someone can go and read the steps, where you have to watch a video. So now our next slide is tools that we use for checking web accessibility. So these are just tools, and they are not 100%, but they are a good guideline of where your site may be at and what you can do to improve things. W3C has a huge list at that top link.
We'll share all these slides.
And yeah. Write them down. And at the top is a checker. And if anybody has ever used a web validator or anything, you go there, you type in the web address, press enter, scans your website, and gives you a list of accessibility errors.
Yeah, and you can set, if you want the AA standard or the single A standard, you just pick it from the dropdown.
So that it's a really useful tool, but again, it doesn't cover everything and it may get stuff wrong. So you still need to know what the standards are, but it's a good guideline. The best tool we've found that's just super quick and easy is actually a bookmarklet. And if you don't know what that is, it's a little bookmark that executes some JavaScript on a page and gives you a little tool. And it's by Squiz Labs. It's called the Code Cipher. We have a demo. Dan, if you can, let me try.
Get the mouse again.
Yeah.
All right. Oops. There we go. All right. It's not accessible.
You gotta use the keyboard.
Oh, I gotta use the keyboard once it's on it?
No, it's just for,
What's the
for accessibility.
Can you not just use the...
Yeah, it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay.
This is a usability issue, right? Not an accessibility issue.
Where was the Mac guy in the room that got us going? Okay, I'm just gonna quit out here. And go to browser.
We don't see anything.
You have to drag the browser together.
There you go.
All right, sorry about that. This is gonna be fun. Okay, so quickly.
There's a little bookmarklet, and over there, you'll see that you get this little pop-up widget once you click it on the page, and it'll tell you how many errors you have, how many warnings you may have, and how many notices you may have. You can change the level on the right, so change it to single A, and you can click on View Report.
So if I go to AAA, which is not even in the near future, we're still 27 errors. AAA gets really, really picky about.
So turn warnings off there, Dan.
Okay.
And if you click on View Report, the great thing about this tool is click on the first one.
So it'll show you your errors.
And then when you click on it, it'll actually, I don't know if we probably zoomed in too much. Try going to the next one. It'll actually point to the element on the page. That is
Yeah, sorry,
that is a problem.
We'll try it on. So Carleton doesn't have any errors. Let's go to. I didn't pick a Canadian university. 51. Harvard, what are you doing?
So warnings are things that may be a problem, but it's sort of that area where you kind of need to know the rules of accessibility. But what's really good about this is as you go through, and it's not really working, but it actually, there you go, it jumps down and it shows you where on the page.
The element right on the page and how to fix it too. So developers, get this tool. It's really, really awesome.
Super useful.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll go back. Go to Keynote.
There we go.
All right. Thanks, Mike. So Carleton's commitment, and I'll speed this up. So we're really committed to this, to achieving a barrier-free and accessibility for everyone at Carleton. We're committed to meeting AODA, and then again, we're really just committed. We're looking to be leaders, and we actually just want this to be a way of life. Like, we don't want this to be something. So I may mention this later, but the deadlines and those dates when we go and I approach a group and I say, you have to make your website accessible, and they say, well, I have till 2021 because it's not new content. That's not the point. The point is like, we want everyone to be able to use and interact with our websites, and so that's just sort of our mandate. The challenges, and these are challenges will exist for everyone, I imagine. So Google crawls 2.5 million pages at Carleton. Yikes. Think about 2021, all of those being AA. Some of those are HTML prof sites, they dream we were up, but as my understanding, anything that comes under your domain is in game. So when we look at strategies, we'll talk about that. There's many developers. We have a sort of, a centered sort of enterprise CMS, but there's still other CMSs on campus, other developers. In communicating the message with them is also a challenge on campus. Third-party web apps. So American company builds your web application. What do they care if it's accessible or not? And so we'll talk a bit about that. Who's going to do all the work? Who takes ownership over this? So we've been jointly working with groups across campus, And then some will say web accessibility is expensive, but I think the argument I'm making here today is it's probably more expensive not to do it. And I think you can work it into your flow of the way you work. So what we're doing, so we're taking an inventory. So I don't know if you're like us and you don't even know how many websites are under your domain or who owns them. So we're actually cataloging it so we can contact people and we can actually validate sites. We're starting with obviously the top tier faculty sites, homepages, and those sort of things, but we want to know for 2021 what all the content is on our domain. The main CMS, so we do have a Carleton CMS that actually our group works on. We've made that AA compliance, so we're already ahead of the game there. We have an accessibility plan and policies at carleton.ca/accessibility. And there's actually a whole READ initiative at Carleton, which is a program formed to deal with the broader accessibility issues, but it's made up of experts, and we're trying to provide in-house training. The more we can do without going to consultants, the better, I figure. And then we don't build a website or no web page now without tons of accessibility testing now. So some strategies. I tell this to the users around our campus because sometimes I give this presentation, the first thing they do is freak out because they don't necessarily have the ability to fix it, but don't panic. I think really what the government is looking for here is like that you're trying your best. So when I talked about third-party apps with American companies, if you interact with them and you engage with them, keep those emails. And then when it comes to audit time, you can say, look, I've tried my best. There's even some of that language in the Act. And it's a good thing to do for other non-Ontario universities as well. Clean up. So 2.5 million pages, I bet 1 million of those are useless or old. It's way easier to archive or delete web pages than it is to make them accessible, especially older web pages that have been just floating around. So it's a good thing to do. It'll help your search engine and everything. Move your legacy sites into your new CMS. So templates, this will be for documents, accessible documents as well. Templates are really the way to fix this stuff. Get everyone, whoever your communication groups that put up the Word templates or the PowerPoint templates, make them accessible, get everyone using them. And then we're looking into some, so what we showed you today is very manual. You don't want to go to every web page and type in the address. So we're looking at some QA suites that will sort of actually do some robot scanning and give us sort of quality assurance reports on, okay, these pages aren't, we're just getting into this. So one of the newest ones we've seen is called W3C Validator Suite. So that's the official people. So I can't tell you much more about it. We haven't tried it, but that one looks pretty good. And then I'm going to hand it over to Sang to talk about UO.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sang Trin. I'm an IT manager at the University of Ottawa, in charge of Central Web Services. And so I certainly can't cover the technical breadth that these guys cover, but I want to talk to you guys today about what we're doing centrally to try to meet the AODA guidelines at a high level. We kind of have a three-pronged approach. One of our biggest issues, and I'm sure you guys suffer through this, is that we're an extremely diverse and decentralized group of people. And so one of our challenges is, well, how do I know that a professor's page is accessible? I don't. It's really, really, really difficult. And short of using this tool on 2.5 million pages to try to figure that out, there really isn't an easy way to do it. And that's one of our approaches. So the first step that we took about 2 years ago was to redefine web governance. One of our biggest issues is no one seems to be really responsible, right? You talk to the faculty of law, they're like, nah, I'm not really concerned about that. I just care about my communication stuff. So centrally, we needed someone to say, yeah, you know what? I own the web centrally. I am responsible for accessibility across the university. And so our new governance, which came into effect last year, set our director of e-communications as the person who is accountable for all of the web pages at the university, regardless of which faculty or which service it's in. So that was key. Then we had to give her a hammer because she needed to get to everyone and say, well, listen, guys, AODA is coming down. We need to be able to meet these guidelines, and so I need to be able to audit. And so that's what we did June of last year. We put in place a tool called Site Improve. And Site Improve is a tool that will crawl your websites, that will generate reports based on the faculty or the service, will roll up services, or roll up reports, I should say, to a central person, so that that person, our director of e-communications in our case, can look at the overall health of the university, can look at every single service, and not necessarily down to each individual site, right? So if you look at Site Improve, you look at the reports that it generates, it gives you a green smiley face, a red frowny face, right? And you get that into the hands of your executives, and they understand what that means, right? You show them WCAG 2.0 level AA, they kind of get all glossy eyed. They don't understand that. So this is why we chose this tool, because it provides us with a very clear tool to bring to people and say, hey, listen, Telfer's actually doing really well. But hey, Telfer, you got a lot of frowny faces. You need to fix this, and this is how it's going to happen. The tool also gives you details about how to fix your accessibility issues. But the most important thing about this tool was the ability to roll up all these reports centrally, to look at the overall health of the university, and to be able to go to a service or a faculty and say, hey guys, you need to fix this. So those are the first two prongs. The third prong that we're taking is, as I mentioned, we're a very diverse and decentralized group, and we're much like Carleton University, and I'm sure some of you guys out there as well, in that each of our services and faculties are free to use whatever CMS they want. And so we've got everything from Joomla to Contribute to WordPress to .NET Nuke. We're all over the map. And there's no really easy way to control how content creators create their content, because there's such a diverse number of web CMSs out there. 2 years ago, we decided to centralize on Drupal. And the third prong that we're taking is centralizing on WET, which is the Web Experience Toolkit based on Drupal 7. This is being deployed at the federal government, the City of Ottawa, RCMP, Stats, Health, a number of public institutions in Ontario that need to meet the AODA guidelines. And so by aligning ourselves with these guys, we get accessibility for free, because these guys need to be accessible. But we also get bilingualism for free. So for those of you who have the need to be bilingual, if you align yourselves with this particular distribution of Drupal 7, you'll get all of that for free. And so that's kind of our third prong approach. We're trying to roll out Drupal 7. We just went, on May 17th, we just had our first release candidate available for everyone. And we're slowly migrating over everyone to this new web CMS. And what the web CMS really gives you, for those of you who don't know, is your biggest problem is always going to be your content creator, right? People are creating inaccessible content. Styles, color contrast, that sort of stuff, navigation, the right tags, that's all controlled centrally. You can control that through your templates. But content creators are your biggest barrier, because they may be creating inaccessible PDFs. And what the CMS gives you is that when a content creator uploads a particular image, they're prompted to put in that alt tag. They cannot publish a piece of content without the right tags, without everything that they need to meet those accessibility guidelines. So that is your biggest tool in your pocket, because you can't. So training will get a number of them, but forcing them to do the things that they need to do to make their website and their web content accessible is only going to help you. So that's it. Those are three prongs, that the three-pronged approach that we have to it.
That's awesome points. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. There's a couple of good questions that have come in already from online. First one, OCAD seems to be working on AODA, accessible digital office documents, for example, Google Docs. Since these are part of most websites, are you looking at this? Is this something we should all be focusing on? Do we have control over this? Have you given any thought to that?
I guess I might. So are we looking at Google Docs? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess as an example of accessible office documents. So
I guess the answer to that is at Carleton, we're trying to make every document that a customer can download or is accessible, or a form they fill out has to be accessible. If it's not accessible, you have to give them an alternative. And there's actually a workflow and a process at Carleton set up now where you can request any document that's available to be accessible. So the easier thing is to make them accessible. If it's on Google Docs and you're internally working on it, I don't think we're worrying about that. It's really anything to the public. Public-facing documents have to be accessible.
Another interesting question, mobile site accessibility. Are you looking at this? Are the current standards applicable? And are there specific standards that mobile sites are commonly failing on?
When developing mobile, we have our new template is responsive. So it's essentially the same template with a few changes. So it's still following all of those WCAG guidelines. We still check it using the same tools. So yes, it's still accessible. There are a few more things to consider, and it may be a bit too codey or too technical to get into in a panel discussion, but there are other things that need to be considered when you're dealing with mobile, but the same standards apply.
Yeah, I would say there's more challenges on the mobile, but we don't treat it any different. And with the responsive, you're just screen sizes are changing. Obviously, it gets trickier in that space to use things from a usability perspective, but yeah, it's not different in any way.
Yeah, AODA is doing the same thing. So our new Drupal distribution is responsive, and it's completely accessible.
How do you manage captioning or streaming media? Is there a concern that accessibility requirements will prohibit delivery of multimedia content?
It's a really good point. We have to provide it. I can't remember if it's an. I can't remember if it's an A or a AA requirement.
AA.
It is a AA requirement. So we don't need to do that till 2021, but we gotta get prepared, right? The reason why we're in this boat in the first place is because we weren't ready for it. We know it's coming down the pipe. And it's a lot like the training that we give today for content creators creating PDFs, right? We give them the training. We say, listen, if you're going to create a PDF, this is how you make it. This is how you make it accessible. It'll be the same thing with any video content, any audio content. If you're going to do that, make it accessible at the time of content creation, and don't think about it as an after the fact.
And YouTube will allow you to add captioning. And I think the rule, you correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but if the content isn't accessible, you just need to provide a way to obtain an accessible version. So if you have a video online and you don't have a transcript, you just need to provide a method to say, click here, follow this process, and we can provide you with a transcript.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on the YouTube captioning. No, it's pretty bad. It can say some weird things. So we are handling it like that now on per request. But like Sang says, we're looking at processes with our people who create the video, COL and IMS, to just do it from the start. That's the best solution.
Yeah.
I'm and I work in faculty and education. We're currently we're migrating to WordPress. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on large sound files and accessibility. We're moving to Kaltura soon, but in the meantime, I'm looking for a solution. Can you suggest anything?
For sound files, that's a good one. I mean, it's not much different than video in some ways. One thing we don't do is we use WordPress as well. We're big WordPress people. We don't bring AV into our web servers. We rely on services like YouTube and Kaltura and SoundCloud. I don't know if you're familiar with SoundCloud. I don't know if SoundCloud is accessible, but it's a great one that you can actually embed in your website. I don't know.
I'm honestly not sure.
I would say from a technical perspective, I really don't know, but we've got services at the Student Academic Success Services where they've got a number of people doing transcription specifically for those in need, and we would do it on an on-demand basis.
If you're just speaking on how to make that content accessible, really the answer is you just need to provide a transcript.
I've seen a couple more hands here and here, so starting to...
Just a question about captioning. I can actually tell you how Carleton's doing it for video on demand, outsourcing. We're using a company that ships the recorded lectures off of India, and we're also working with crowdsourcing to get students to caption videos for us.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Very cool.
Yes.
How do you deal with the plethora of web applications and vendors out there who are still trying to like speed with all that stuff? And I guess some of them are maybe new applications you're purchasing, so that's one context obviously you can show the guidelines. But then how about those legacy applications where you're doing an education job with some of these folks?
So third party.
Yeah, sure. That's a big issue. So even our ERP and stuff like that is not sort of the latest web technologies. I think Sam was saying is the governance is huge, And as long as you have the governance in place, one, you're not going to get all these sneaky apps coming in. That's really the starting point, is know what's coming in on campus now that you have to deal with these. But we're going to try for 2021 to make these as best we can. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of that is your best effort. If you can't control the source code, it's in Java, it's compiled, and it's up to the vendor. I think it's just, again, that you're doing your due diligence to request it, to make sure that you don't bring anything. What we're setting up at Carleton, or we have in place to some degree, is standards for applications that you bring on. Everything's pretty much a web app these days, right? So we like it to hook into our identity management system. We like it to be accessible. We like it to be mobile ready. I think every university should start to have that set of standards, and then no apps come on campus that don't meet those. And if you're going to a vendor who doesn't supply it, move along. I know it's harder than it sounds, but that's my 2 cents.
There's really two aspects to it, right? You've got your new stuff that you're trying to deploy, and that goes into your RFP, right? It needs to meet WCAG 2.0, level A, level AA. So that's easy. That's easy, right? Because you toss people out who don't meet it. The existing applications, though, is a little bit more difficult. If you read the letter of the law, it says that anything older than January 2012 or deployed before January 2012 does not need to meet the accessibility guidelines. And so if you've deployed something, so I'll give you a really good example. Don't quote me on this, but our student registration system was deployed. I can't remember when, but it doesn't need to meet this legally, right? We're striving to make it accessible, but it's a third-party application. How do you get at that to do it? So that's what I would say. So really, you have a gap from if you started your bidding process for RFPs back in 2012, and you say, okay, well, listen, you can't bid unless you meet these accessibility guidelines. Then you're actually doing okay, right? And that's how we're approaching things.
And then, have you had any issues where your VPATs don't align with reality?
I can't immediately think of any applications right now that we've purchased that don't meet it.
Like even SharePoint, the VPAT says SharePoint great, but then when you actually test it,
yeah,
okay, well there are actually some issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you?
I think you've just got to go back and tell them, listen, it's not meeting it, and these are the guidelines that we must follow as a university, and it's a sticky situation, right? There is a provision though in AODA for third-party applications, I believe.
Yes,
where that I can't remember what the statement is, and it's not necessarily for web accessibility, but accessibility in general. And it talks about putting a reasonable amount of effort to make it accessible.
Interesting.
So you can look at is there an API for talking to the application? Is there some sort of theming system that you can use to even make it a little bit more accessible? I mean, just because there's provisions saying, oh, I've tried, doesn't mean you shouldn't try really hard. It's still very important.
We had a question over here.
Hi, I'm from the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo, and one of the areas that we provide support in is spatially referenced information, geographic information systems, remote sensing. How do you have any experience with that? Are any of your faculties involved in any of that? And how would you see making that data available because it's accessible? And along the same line, how would a faculty of math or statistics or do their algorithms? How is all of that going to work?
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah, so there are groups at Carleton who are in that area, and I don't know anything about it, but I can see the challenge ahead. I know math in particular, sometimes you need images, and how do you put an alt tag on an image that's an image only? You know what I mean?
Like of a big formula.
Yeah, a formula. I don't have anything other than to say that eventually, if you need to get stuff out, that there's a way for people with this barrier to get it. I don't know if you'll always we're starting with the low-hanging fruit, and we'll probably move to stuff like that. I don't know if it's possible technically. So but I think it's more what I'm sort of getting into. It's more the culture of, okay, if there is new software, let's ask that it can do it, what we were just talking about. And if it's on your radar now, chances are we're going to push all the third-party vendors to be like, oh, we can't sell anything anymore unless it's accessible. So maybe that's the broader university global strategy and all this.
There's also some standards that exist for math and sort of more technical data, math, ML. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. There is a W3C math page, and I think it deals with sort of that sort of content. But I think right now, even at this point, the standards are still competing for making that sort of content accessible.
I don't have any real solutions for you either, unfortunately, but I know that we are redoing maps, and geological information is always, or geographical information is always going to be a challenge. The one piece of advice I would give you is that build it, test it, make sure it passes all the tests. And then with all the tools that these guys have shown in Site Improve, the tools give you the feedback or the piece of information you need to know to make it accessible. And so what I would say is follow those guidelines.
Try looking up Math ML and see if that may help.
Yes.
I was just wondering what process you went through to choose Site Improvement. Did you go through the RFP?
We did, yeah. Yeah, we did. We looked at a bunch of different. I can't remember all the products. This was a year and a bit ago, I think, is when we deployed it. So I think it was January of a little while ago. But yeah, we went through RFP. We evaluated a bunch of different products that were on the were on the market. I think we went with Site Improve because of its ease of use. The city of Ottawa has it deployed. So that gave us another data point, and they were happy with it. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
I think we can try and squeeze in one more question.
I was talking to some people the other day about compliance, and this is to negate the idea that we should all strive to be accessible, but we're making the distinction between authenticated content and compliance and public facing in terms of deadlines and compliance. Do you have any information on that?
What I'm understanding is it's the same. So if you think about students who are signing into your portal, that's a piece of authenticated content that needs to be accessible, because you're going to have students with disabilities who are attending your school who need to be able to navigate through that content.
There's some language distinguishing web and intranet in the AODA communication standard guidelines.
I think, yeah, it's a good point. I think it's when it hits that public. So if your intranet is just you, I think you're okay. But in our case, students are our clients. And again, we're handling it right now because we're not there yet with our registration system, same as Ottawa, with a workflow. So there's a statement up front that says, if you need anything in here accessible, here's how you go through it. Here's the contact. That's probably the easiest first step, because that is a challenging thing.
All right, thanks. On behalf of everyone here, I'd like to thank you for an informative presentation and thoughtful answers. It's great. Thanks.